And of course, this new job, I've got this. Then I get caught up in the baby P inquiry. I don't know if you ever remember that. I get caught up in that, and everyone gets silenced on that thing as well.
Could you explain the baby P a bit?
Yeah. It was a kid called Peter Connolly, and he was let down. They say by social services, but let down by the police. You know, it never came out in the government review of it. Really, they blamed the social services, criticised the police. They shouldn't. It was joint, and this case had been ongoing for a long time. And these child protection investigation units, they're mainly women in there.
Yeah.
They go on maternity leave and they don't come back. They don't really care. They just want to go back home. They're lactating and they just want to get back home to their kids. So there was a couple of big cases where kids got murdered, and the reason they got murdered was that the female officers, female detectives, didn't want to do home visits in case they got scabies. And that's, look, when we look at police corruption, what we got to look at is incompetence and laziness before we look at conspiratorial stuff, right? So that's anyway. So this poor little Peter Connolly had been passed from officer to officer, and they'd done nothing, and it went to the bottom of the pile. And the mum was accused of doing all this, a woman called Tracy Connolly, and she is returning on bail. She's still got a kid, bear in mind. So she's on bail for neglect. They hadn't removed the kid. So I come in one day, and the officer that got given this case, he didn't want to know, he wasn't bothered. And he has a day off, goes sick or something like that. I never went sick for 19 years. I never had one day sick. With all the kids and the drinking and everything, I never went sick once. So I came in, and the inspector, the DI, said, look, this officer, he's gone sick again. Look, they've got this case coming up. The mum's coming back. Will you go down there and just do a quick interview and bail her out? I went, I can't do that. There's no quick interview with me. So he went, no, sod that wedge. I'm not giving it to you. And he gave it to my colleague. Said, no, look, just go bail her out. Quick interview with a solicitor and then kick her out. So he went, yeah, all right. So he gives it to my mate, and we go off to a police station near Tottenham. And the mum turns up, and with interviewing, you have your interview, and you have your second, your support interview. And my mate literally does that. Yeah, if you've got anything to say, no. Anything changed since last time? He was going, no, right, I'm going to stop the interview. Before I stop it, my colleague, have you got any? But I've been sitting there reading the paediatric report on this file, right? I don't waste time, I'm reading it. Horrific injuries, and the mum had been explaining them, like he bruises easily, or he fell over and a dog knocked him over. It's just total bullshit. Total up bullshit. And you could see that she was horrible. She was vile, and she was a control freak. And interviewing is a skill. It's a brilliant skill. It's probably the best. A good interviewer is fantastic. I like to think I was one of the good ones, but I wasn't the best.
And what makes a good interviewer, would you say?
Right, got to be very clever, right? Okay. What made me a good interviewer was a wise man always plays the fool. So I would make out I was thick as shit. I'd make out I was incompetent. I never wore a suit. And people wear suits. I don't know, you might as well wear a uniform. You know, it makes them more official. And but I would study everything. I would study it all. And there's a thing called reciprocity. I give you something, you give me something, right? And it's human nature. So even with paedophiles, I'd make them tea. I'd make sure they'd eat. Do you want a shower? We'd get a shower before brush your teeth. It's simple things like that. You've been banged up in a cell. You smell, you stink, paedophile or not, and brushing teeth. How lovely is that to brush your teeth, Have a shave, go and have a shave, mate. Go and have, and you get them out for it and get some food. I ain't eating police food. I'll go over to the cafe, I'll buy you a bacon roll or McDonald's breakfast, something like that. And I'd do it, I would do it. But it was deceptive because I've given him something now. He's going to find it very, very difficult to make no comment.
Yeah.
Very difficult. He will, but I will screw anyone on a no comment. That was my thing. No comment interviews. I loved it. The criminals think they're clever. No comment, mate. You know, and coppers give up on them. Well, what's the point? But if you know the law, you can do so much damage. I mean, especially when you're dealing with nutcases, you can really destroy someone in a no comment. And I always made out stupid. I made out that I hadn't read the paperwork. This is only going to be over in a minute, but they're going for 8 hours. My interviews, they're going for hours and hours. I would really strangle a cat with them. But I knew everything. But I let them talk. You know, tell me about that. And this woman, I said, look, we just need to clear up these injuries. My mate wants to go early. He wants to go into bookies. He's addicted to gambling. He wants to put a bet on. He wants to be out of here. Some horse race he wants to catch. You look at his watch and all this sort of stuff. And I said, look, I won't be long. Can we just clear up these injuries, you know? Because it's got to be hard for you, mum, being accused of these awful things, you know, and there's obviously an explanation. So I said, let's just start off with the bruise around your boy's mouth, you know? So I draw a little diagram and I said, there's a mouth, look, there's bruising or something. Oh, yeah, that's, so the teething ring. Someone had knocked him with a teething ring. Now, they got the consistency of a wet sponge. She said, he bruises really easy, officer. I said, no, call me John. No, call me John. John, he bruises really easy. I said, well, he must bruise easy, you know, with that. That's cool. She went, yeah, I'm telling the social workers I'm a good mum. Well, she's telling me she's a bad mum.
Yeah.
Because you reverse everything, and I flip that on its head. Especially with paedophiles. I said, I've never touched them. And what they tell you is I've touched them. It's really simple as that. It's quite straightforward. And I said, no, I get that, you know, I get that. You come across, and I'm just blow smoke up her ass. I don't challenge her, right? I let her think she's cleverer than me. She's a manipulator. She's a psycho, right? She needs to feel in control. And I'm going to let her have that. She can totally have that. I'm not going to put me back, you know, dig me up, nothing. And I went, oh, thank you for that. Let's clear that up. Now, this injury to his ribs and another load of rubbish. He fell on a beanbag, and then you'd go into infinite detail. Well, how big was a beanbag? How much was a fall? Can you show me? And you get them to explain. Yeah, well, my chair's this high, the beanbag's there, and I say that it's about 9-inch fall, and the beanbag's full up. What's the floor? What's the floor made of? You know, because there's a difference between a carpeted underlaid floor on floorboards to wooden floor and concrete. It's got different bounce factor and all this sort of stuff. So you cover that, but what you're doing is stopping her from using these defences in court. But you do it clever, you know, get her to explain it in detail, you know, and go along with her. Yeah, I don't know, that's grand, that's great, you know. Thanks so much for doing that. And that one's dealt with. Let's just get them out of the way. And she wants them out of the way. So we go for all these injuries, and there was a lot. So how do you punish the kid? Oh, a naughty step. Oh, but what's a naughty step? What's that mean? I've heard it, but I'll make him if he's naughty, standing and I said, well, that's a really humane way of dealing with non-aggressive. She went, yeah, I'm not aggressive, you know. I went, thanks so much for that. And I just blown smoke up her ass. I said, do you sound like a really model mum, to be honest? She said, I am. So then you recap. If there's anything wrong, tell me now. Because she's taking ownership now. She's going to sign for that. Yeah, that's all in order, right? I said, brilliant. And my mate's looking at his watch and the solicitors quite happy because I'm being a nice person. I said, just before we go, and I pull out a paediatric report. Right. And I've got the drawing that she's drawn. So she's drawn it, you know. Yeah. I said, that bruise there, you said this. Let's just see. And then I read out, this is Dr. So-and-so. She was the best paediatric doctor in the Western world, this woman. She was from South Africa. She was, and her resume is outstanding. She's done it all. Yeah. Some of the worst, violentest places on the planet, you know, Johannesburg and everything. She's worked it all. She's seen it all. She was awesome. And I said, and she had, I think she even had some sort of OBE or something for services to kids and that. So I read out her thing, right, this is her experience. She's examining that kid. And she said, that injury is caused by high impact trauma with a solid object conducive with a fist. So basically someone punched that kid in the mouth. But you're saying that, right, now this is what this is saying, right? that's it. She's gone. But it's at the end of the interview. I've got everything. I've built my case. She can trash it all she wants now. Don't matter. Fuck her. It's finished. Game over. I'm now attacking her. She's going to get attacked. And when she's down, I'm stamping on her. She ain't getting up. And I keep going. And of course, then the psycho comes out. The monster comes out. Because this is what paedophiles are. This is what grooming is. It's all about ingratiating you. You watch men that are good at chatting up birds. And there's no sour grapes here. Right? You know, I'm not saying that. But it's a paedophilic grooming process. They'll tell a woman, you smell so beautiful, you look so beautiful. How can your man let you out? Look at you. If you was mine, I'd never let you out. And of course they love it. He just wants to shag her.
Attention.
He wants to shag her. Paedophiles the same. What is a goal? Oh, you're beautiful little kid, and oh, you're funny, it's the sweetest, whatever it might be. You just want to shag them.
Yeah.
That is the end goal. And they will be relentless. They will put all of their... It's a disguise, it's a mask, but that veneer is very thin. It's easily peeled away.
Yeah.
But you what you've got to do when you peel it away, you've got to hit them unexpected and let their anger.
Yeah.
It's anger. Because these are emotionally broken people, and they can't contain themselves because they're emotionally immature. So they have a low emotional immaturity, very, very low. And the anger will come out, and it's interesting to watch. And I watch a lot of people that are interviewed, some people that give podcasts, especially watch it when these ex-criminals give it, and you can see that anger. That anger is trauma, and I know that there's a broken, emotionally immature child there.
Yeah.
They might be intelligent, high IQ, well kickbox champion, but emotionally, they're a child.
Yeah.
So you have to deal with that child. You get to that child, and then so what we're going to see in a minute is that emotionally that stern adult will now become that emotionally broken child, and when a kid don't get what it wants, it's petulance. You know, I hate you, and you watch it. Someone who's balanced from a very loving, caring, you won't get that. You'll get reason.
Yeah. We
will reason. So yeah, I get your point. I get my point, but emotionally broken people can't reason. They flip, and I know she's going to flip, and I keep going, and the next thing she stands up, she spits in my face and goes, you, C-U-N-T, screams it, and she's gone, man, she's gone. And I just said, look, that's the monster. And I explained to the tape exactly what's happening. She now stood up, spat in my face, is this, you're now arrested for assault and police, but do it all on tape, you know. I said, that's a monster your kid sees, isn't it? That's a monster. And I said, stop the interview, and I say to him, shut up, it's nothing to do with you. And I take command. I've been this subservient, giving the solicitor a cup of tea, and sir, calling him sir. He ain't nothing to me. He's there by invite only.
Yeah.
And he's client invited. I didn't want him there. And I'll tell him to his face, you shut your mouth, my interview. And that is it. And I'll be a totally different person. Yeah. And if he kicks off, yeah, well, you'll be reported to Law Society now, get out. And that's how I deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ain't here for you, shut your mouth. And I'll ignore him then. No matter what he says, he gets ignored. He can shout, he can scream, he can do what he wants. I ignore him. I turn my back deliberately away from the solicitor, and if he's there, like you, I will put my arm across like that, and I'll be obnoxious. Nah, mate, yeah, whatever. You like that, and I'll do that. And of course he won't like, he's screaming and shouting. No, good, kick off.
Yeah.
Kick off, let's have a fight. And that's what I do. It did turn into a fight once. But I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm there to protect the kid. I'm not there for you. And if you don't see the merits of what I'm doing, you've got no heart. You can F off. You're only a solicitor. You're not a barrister. You're not a judge. You're a solicitor.
Yeah.
You're nothing, mate. You are pretty much down there. You know, people think that I'm a solicitor. No. They ain't that. You know, not QC, KC, whatever. And that's so I'd upset him as well. And I'm telling her, like barking dogs, I'm in control now. I'm the alpha male. I'm in charge of the pack. Ain't no one shutting me up. And I'll go, 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 and I won't stop. I will not stop. Have you ever seen that film, Al Pacino again, Scent of a Woman? And at the end, he gives a speech. He does exactly the same. He lets it go, and in the end, he just kicks off. And it's good. Louis Theroux is a fantastic interviewer. Because Louis Theroux, He's a smarmy little sod, but he's a brilliant interviewer because he comes across as stupid.
Yeah.
Absolutely stupid. His tradecraft for interviewing is perfect. He is without a doubt one of the best interviewers I've ever seen. He is so clever how he interviews. But other people, I cannot stand watching Andrew Tate, for example. I cannot stand watching him. That's a very broken person.
Yeah.
Very broken. How he's got this huge following. Emotionally, that's a little kid, man. You know, you sit there and think, wow, why can't anyone see that?
Yeah.
Can't you see? His brother's different. His brother's more reasonable and balanced. He's not. There's no reason or balance in him. Boom. It's like that, oh man, shouting, and he becomes very immature with his argument when he loses it. And you know, that's a child. I'd say that there's a damaged child from about 8 to 12 years old there. Something's happened to that man.
Yeah.
And it's probably, I would say there's something involving a mother maybe not being a protector she should have been, because there's this resentment towards women.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You can see it. Anyone in the know will know. But who does he appeal to? He appeals to broken young men. That you've got to look at value system as well. What do people value? Right? Bugattis, they're nothing, they're metal. In the whole scheme of the world, it's metal. Your value system should be on your children first, and on happiness and all that, not on things. And it's a childish thing. I listened to him once and he said, he's there with a big cigar and all that, and he said, my ultimate day is getting on a private jet, my private jet. He got his top off, which I think is a bit odd, you know, drinking champagne, having a threesome and eating pizza. I'm thinking, that's a 12-year-old boy's wet dream. That's not a balanced grown man's thing. So that's what it is. So you've got this ratio of 80-20, let them do most of it. But then my point would be it's adversarial. You know, I'm now adopting that adversarial role. I've built the rapport. I've got all the information I've done. I've not let pride be part of it. I've acted thick as shite. Absolutely thick as anything I've acted. They think they're above me. They think they're intellectually superior to me and all that. And then, bang, I hit them. And then, of course, this broken child comes out. I've won. And she knew it. I'd outwitted her and I'd won. Nothing more need to do. And when the government did their review, out of all the officers that dealt with that case, I was the only one to get commended for what I'd done. And that was based on that interview, I was then offered a job with the Met Police's Specialist Interview Unit.
Okay.
And it was then a job where we went all around the world, teaching interview skills to officers from the Maldives, Dubai, the Caribbean, everywhere. They were the centre of excellence for interviewing. But it depends. There's other people that there's no need to do that. There's no need to do that. You know, they know they're in trouble. You know they're in trouble, and you know, and you explain to them, look, this is why I'm doing it. And you explain to them, you go, look, if you're making no comment, right, I'm going to have to ask a question because I'm going to stop you from asking them, saying this in court. Because what does the caution say? You do not have to say anything. You didn't say nothing, but it may harm your defence. Your side is a defence. If you do not mention one question, I'm questioning you now. Something you later rely on in court. So when you go to court and you might want to say something, and I've asked you about it here, your case is finished, mate.
Really?
Your case is finished, yeah.
Okay.
And it's a contract, it's a verbal contract. Terms and conditions apply, blah, blah, blah. You must not default, your house is at risk. They tell you. The caution, you do the same. And some people, you tell them that. In order for you to make no comment, you've got to understand the risk that goes with it. Your solicitor, he's giving you legal advice. It's just advice, my friend, and that's how I say it. It's advice. He ain't going to be sat in the box, you will.
Yeah.
You know, he's getting paid anyway, and of course, solicitors, I object. I said, I'm really not interested, mate. You've had your chance to consult now, and I'll go to him. I'm going to carry on. You make no comment. This ain't going to finish early, mate. I said, I'm going to ask you every single question about why you were there, what you did, what you was alleged to have done, that I can imagine, in order to stop you doing it in court. But at the end of the day, if you want to tell me here and now, you're going to get 30% of your sentence off. You have it now, you're going to get, I'll guarantee you now, you know, I'm talking with the Home Secretary, you're going to get third. So if you're going to get 6 years, you're now going to get 4. You're going to be out in 2. But if you get found guilty, you're going to get a lot, maybe a bit more.
Yeah.
And that's how you do it. And that's how you do it with informants as well. You say, it's a way out of this. Once that tape stops, you need to tell me. And you do it professionally, but there'll be a mutual respect there. So with certain criminals, you won't have a mutual, and they'll respect you for doing it. I would go in the ins and outs. So someone would be saying no comment, you know. So like bank robber, was you in this bank? No comment. Well, let's assume you wasn't, because you're not telling me you weren't. What was you doing in that bank? And then you go through every reason that they were there. Did you find a lost dog that ran in there and you chased after it? No comment. Right. So you weren't there because you were trying to look for something? No comment. Do you have an account there? No comment. You go through the reasonable reasons, the unreasonable reasons, and mitigation excuses, and you cover everything. So if they go, cool, and it's clearly them, I was there because, well, actually, mate, you was asked. You was asked in the interview.
And does that mean they cannot then use it then?
No, well, they can, but it will go against them, because then you say to the court, I'm going to ask the court to bring about an inference, a common sense decision, that I gave you the chance and you didn't take it. Right, so when they start coming out, you go to the court, well, actually, and you make it clear to them in an interview, the judge will know that I have given you every opportunity. This is contemptible behaviour, to answer to it. You've got all the evidence. There ain't no more coming. If there is, then let's say nothing. That's okay, but there ain't no more, right? And now you've used this time to come up with a lie, and that's it. That's how it's going to be, and that's how it'll be presented in court.
So it's kind of like, if that was the truth, why didn't you just say that when I asked you?
And you've used this time to come up with a lie, and your solicitor knows that as well, you know. And of course he kicks up. You don't. And reasonable people will turn around and go, well, what can you offer me?
Yeah.
You know, and usually when the tape stops, they'll say, what can you offer me? And then you say, well, give me someone doing things bigger and better than you, and mate, you're walking out. I had one guy, 15 years he was going to do, 15 years, he did 2. So that's a lever. So because I was doing that, I was just good at it. The National Crime Squad started using me, so I got asked to really basically infiltrate the Turkish mafia, and I caused them so many problems. Well, they were Kurdish, you know, and I ruined them.
Yeah.
I ruined them. So they offered me a bribe. They knew I had kids and all that, and so I go. One that comes back on the bail to return. He's like he's a gangster. He's very, very well connected to a big family in the Green Lanes area of Haringey, and it's all to do with drugs, heroin, and you know, heroin's their thing, you know. And they're dangerous. They're killers. They're murderers, you know. And all these greengrocers that spring up, and now it's these. Then it was coffee shops, cafes, and now it's these barbers. It's all cash. It's drug money, you know.
Okay.
Let's get it right. It's drug money. That's how they do it. The Italians used to do it with restaurants.
Like lawn.
Yeah. There's a guy who goes round every week and picks up money from them. So the big mafia will buy these places, and then they'll rent it to someone to set up a shop, and then they'll go around and collect the money, all, you know, a lot of it cash, and it's racketeering. It's organised criminality. That's all it is. And the lads there, I would say, necessarily involved, but they know who they're working for.
Yeah.
The Turkish mafia were very dangerous, very, very dangerous people. And anyway, this guy, he comes back bail returned with his solicitor, who's an ex-copper, and we're in this little interview room, and I'm just getting him to sign a rebail form, and his solicitor gets up and walks out. So I go up and follow him. He went, no, you stay there. I went, you can't leave me on my own with your client. He went, he needs to talk to you. I need a cigarette. I'm thinking, nah, this stinks. So I said, well, what's your problem? And he gets out £4,000, boom, passes it to me, right? I went, no, I don't want it. I'm proper skin. But there is nothing they have I want.
No.
You could bribe me with all the Bugattis in the world and all that. I don't want it. It's not happiness for me.
Yeah.
It is not my happiness, you know. Walking my dog, swimming in a lake, that's happiness. I will live with it. I don't need it. It's not my value system. And he went, tomorrow I'll meet you at this place. I'll give you 76,000, 80,000, because that's what one of them was making in a day. And I was screwing them. I was seizing all the heroin. In 1 week, I seized 376 kilos or something of 96% purity heroin. Yeah, it was madness. And it was all from one shipment for one Kurdish boss. And what they do is they bring it in. It usually goes to a coffee shop or one of these kebab shops or somewhere in the back. Come in a container with fruit.
Yeah.
Because fruit, it's organic and it'll give off carbon dioxide. So sniffer dogs can't pick it up. The smell.
Does that sound like cocaine and coffee or something?
Yeah, and stuff like. Well, it's usually to do with just fruit, perishable goods, because it'll give off. There's so much carbon dioxide and all that, and heroin smells. It's strong. Pure heroin. It'll make your eyes water. Really? It's how they refine it and things like that. And it's like the sniffer dogs. They're trained to sniff the agent used to make it, not the actual drug. And they use like a kerosene and something. That's why people used to lose their noses from sniffing it, because the agent to make it was corrosive.
Really?
Not so much the product, But heroin is our stuff that we get is brown.
Yeah.
If it comes from Thailand, it's white. Call it China white.
Okay.
But this is like brown, and it's like a really light brown, golden colour. It's
kind of like brown sugar.
That colour, but it's powdery. It's powdery. And one bar back then was about £70,000. One bar. Jesus. They'd buy it for 5,000. They'd usually take it to Leeds, and that they did make the second down the line will be Pakistanis. They buy it, the Pakistanis, and then they distribute it and do whatever they want with it. But the main market is Scotland. Yeah. So if you get it to Scotland, because they don't smoke heroin in Scotland, they just inject it. They call it jagging.
Okay.
They go straight to a needle thing.
And why is that? Sorry.
It's pleasure and pain. They couldn't work out, but they're Celts, and so Scottish have got this bizarre thing that unless it hurts, it's no good for you.
Oh, okay.
That's why they've got high violent crime and stuff like that. They're warriors. They're different mentality, the Scottish.
Different breed.
Yeah, so they inject. There's no smoke in there, and they get big. They get better money. So these boys are like, we're not dealing with the Pakistani boys, the Luton boys, the Leeds boys, and all that. We're going straight to Glasgow, and they get, they set one guy up because they thought he was my informant. They set him up, and he ends up getting caught. He gets made to take it up there, and he gets caught at a train station with like 15 kilos, and he's going to get a year for every kilo. And he decides to talk. But so these guys are going to offer me 80 grand, and I said no. And they said, right, it's a big problem, John. And they did that. So their contract was paid out to shoot me. And I was jumped in Leeds. I was in Leeds. There was a big heroin case, and I went up on a train, and they'd paid some boys to smash me to pieces. And I got jumped in the middle of Leeds. I didn't even know anyone there, I'm going back to get a train to come back to London, and next thing I just get knocked to the floor, and I sort of don't remember much, but I'm getting battered, and an off-duty copper jumps in and sort of protects me, and then they sort of leg it, and then there was an undercover operation with the National Crime Squad, and they had an undercover officer in Hackney with all the gangs around Green Lanes, all that sort of lot. And they were planning on he was present when a meeting, my picture was passed around. And they said, he looks like us, he makes out he's stupid, but he's got blue eyes. So if he turns up at your place, it's this guy, Jon Wedger, shoot him. And they call me the blue-eyed snake. And they said, he makes out he's stupid, because they would make out I was fucking stupid. Yeah. And I would be no threat to anyone, but I would do them a lot of damage, a lot of damage. And what I was doing was working. Yeah. And I was just seizing heroin left, right, and centre. And so one guy, he got offered 40 grand to shoot me. So I was put on a protection order for a while, and then I sort of survived that one. But then the National Crime Squad said, well, look, just getting amongst them. So I was going into prisons. Yeah. So I end up in a prison in Scotland. And I'm talking to one guy, and he'd got because their prisons are just Scottish, right? They're just white people, most of ginger hair. Every single prisoner had a scar. They call it Mars barring.
Okay.
They just mad for slashing people up there. And they're really hostile, their prisons. Horrible. The guards are horrible. Not nice. And if you're English, you're in trouble in there. You're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
You're just going to get Mars barred, and that's that. And this guy was telling me, he said, the English are in trouble. He said, they don't come out for breakfast, they just get punched in the face straight away. And he said, look, I've been going to the mosque because there's no Muslims there. Right? He said, and it's just me. But there's another guy comes in here, and he's always got 2 guards with him. And he said, he's not allowed, he's in segregation, he's been there for a long time, John. He said, but in the mosque, the guards go and have a cigarette and a chat, and we make out we're praying, but he's talking to me. Right? I've got to sit separate. And he's a nice guy. And I said, all right. He said, his name's Abdul. And it's Abdul al-Mugrahi, the Lockerbie bomber.
Okay.
The plane, the Pan Am plane that blew up in Lockerbie. There's a film out at the moment with Colin Firth in it. And they said that he's a Lockerbie bomber. He blew this plane up that blew up in Scotland back in, I think it was the early 90s or something like that, late 80s. He said he never did it, John. He said, he's telling me he's doing for the British government what I do with you. He was working with the government, giving them information, and he knew something they didn't want him to know, and they stitched him up. He said he never did it. I'm like, oh, fuck. He said, can you help him? I was like, I don't know. I don't know. It was going into another level, you know? Anyway, I put a report in, and this guy was moved. He was then repatriated, sent back, and then they said he died of cancer.
No.
And then I went to see my man, he went, he didn't have cancer, John, they just got rid of him.
Wow.
He didn't have cancer, it was rubbish, he was healthy. He went, and you know, so you'd get these little snippets would come out, so you start getting into this dark world, you know. And so how it ended up going with me was the 2 girls that got killed, it started eating me up. And I'm like, and then Jimmy Savile, he gets exposed.
Yeah.
But people know about him. I'd heard about him, Savile, you know, and many others. So there's no real secret there. They knew.
Sorry, give me 30 seconds. Just want to check something. Oh, perfect. I had it once, I dealt with Norman, and my bloody phone locked.
Oh, right.
Stop, it's all fine.
You know, someone rings you or something like that.
That's why I put it on airplane mode, but I didn't realise my bloody memory ran out. I cleared it all this morning. I just thought, it always plays on my mind when I'm sitting there, and I can just think it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Jimmy Savile came out.
Jimmy Savile gets exposed.
That's the thing, you look back at the videos on that.
Yeah.
So I saw one earlier, and it's like, just the way he was with just normal women, it's just like, bloody hell.
I watched one of these
podcasts,
right, the other day, and there's a guy saying, I won't name names or anything, but he went, I was really good friends with Mohammed Al-Fayed, right? Oh, he's a brilliant guy. I'm thinking, no, he weren't. There was loads of rumours about him, even back then.
Yeah.
And anyone who got to know him would know that he was a pervert for women, you know? And of course, this video had been done, this podcast, I think, prior to him being exposed. I think there so many people must have an egg on their faces when they align themselves and they make out that, you know, the people they hang around with or them are good, and because they're not the perverts.
Yeah.
You know, and you know when you're with perverts, you know, because that's all they'll talk about.
Yeah.
And the way they look, and like they know. These women that married these blokes, they know. They know that guy likes looking at the little niece or the little nephew, and they know.
Yeah.
It's just convenient for them to say. But people have this thing where they have to idolise. They have to love talking about, you know, their connection to the celebrities. I couldn't give a toss of these people, you know. You know, someone else was going about Michael Jackson. Oh, amazing. No, he wasn't. It's a very, very broken, damaged paedophile.
Yeah.
And it was. Anyone who base level 101 knew anything about sex offending profiling, and even if you didn't, a grown man having young boys sleep over, you know, whether he's a celebrity or not, damaged. And the fact is, they say he was the man who never grew up, the boy who never grew up. Of course, because he's emotionally broken. What you've got to understand is that when you sexually abuse a child, right? They can go on to achieve. In fact, they can overachieve. Intellectually, they can say, I'm going to be someone, because they've been told you're nothing, you're this, you're that, Physically, no one's ever going to hurt me. This is why you see these violent criminals that have been sexually abused. Because there's a need to a lot of people, when they bulk themselves up, is protecting themselves, and that might be through muscle, it might even be through body fat. Protection, a duvet, around you. But emotionally, so there was a program about the SAS, and they interviewed 5 SAS soldiers. 3 of them had been in kids' home and had been sexually abused. 3/5 of them, so a massive percentage, had been abused in kids' homes. And they went on because physically they can do these things. They can totally detach, and the anger will drive them forward. The trauma will drive them forward. But emotionally, they're broken. They're absolutely broken. So that emotional clock stops. And it stops at that age where you were hurt. And this is when you see people with a childish value system, with anger, with petulance, with an inability to reason. It's because of emotionally they're broken.
Yeah.
And unless they get trauma therapy and understand what's going on, there's nothing they can do about it. And this is why so many see people like Tate, the anger in them, and others. I watch them all the time. I watch these interviews. I watch these criminal podcasts. I do watch them for 2 reasons. One, there's a lot of ineptitude with the people that they interview. They don't fully understand who they've got in front of them and what took them there, and they want to glamorize crime.
Yeah.
And I'm so against that. But then when you watch the people they interview, they've been sexually abused as kids. It's so obvious, but they don't see that.
Yeah.
And I said from the start, sexual abuse of children will be at the base level, the bedrock of all of this. It might be you're the toughest guy, but let's look at your family. You can't switch that off when you go home. That anger's there.
Yeah.
That anger's there. I'm telling you, and your kids will suffer that. Your missus will suffer that. There will be a history of trauma. There'll be night terrors, waking up in the middle of the night screaming. They'll have a propensity to self-medicate. But then they joke about it on these podcasts like it's not. It's unhappiness.
Yeah.
The anger is trauma, and everyone will suffer. And if you don't put it right, abuse will go on for 3 generations. So your children are going to suffer from that. And their children will suffer before.
It's just a vicious cycle.
Yeah. And that's if you break that cycle. And there's a good percentage don't. So most paedophiles have been abused. I'm not saying that survivors of abuse are paedophiles. I'm not saying that. But there's a greater percentage in that community than the non-abused.
Yeah.
And that stands to reason. That's only based on reason. If you get a dog, kick it, punch it and everything else, it's going to bite. You treat it lovingly, he ain't going to bite. It's simple.
Yeah.
So I watch these things all the time, and I do get. I think people need to understand what they're dealing with, and it's only really the fortitude of the ex-criminal that they're interviewing who says that I was abused. I'm thinking, good on you. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
There's value in what you do now. But if they don't say it and they glamorise crime, there's no value in that. You're actually devaluing yourself and you promote criminality, which promotes misery, and you're creating victims. Don't do it. And that is my call out to these podcasts. Have a reason and raison d'etre for doing this. And it should be about redemption. It should be. There should be a redemptive element to it.
And to stop someone else from going down that same path.
100%. And there's healing in that, because they might listen to it and they think, he's been through what I've been through. A tough guy like that, and he said it. There's a guy at the moment who's doing his own ones. It's called Ray Hill.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen him. I like listening to him. As inarticulate as he is, there's a lot of truth in what he's saying. Quite powerful.
Yeah.
Quite powerful. You take away the stupidity of the glamorising of violence and all that, because that's only the broken child. But the message he's putting out is quite a powerful one, and there's an honesty. He's calling out the Cray twins and people like that, and I'm thinking, God bless you for doing that. God bless you for doing that. And if he watches this, I think, Ray, what you're doing is very good. I do. I genuinely do. There's others. and they're quite well-known podcasters. I think it's shameful what they're doing, but what he's doing is very good. And this is from someone who's dealt with paedophiles and dealt with victims at a very intense level. You know, I've seen the misery, and I felt the pain, and it has saturated me to my inner core. When I heard that these two little kids, but especially one in particular, a girl called Zoe, had died, and Jimmy Savile had spoken out. Jimmy Savile had been exposed, and with that become this massive flood of people coming forward saying, I was abused by Savile, right? And of course the British government did the usual thing, absolute nonsense, this is rubbish, this man was a hero, these are just people out for money. There's not one victim on this planet, a genuine victim, that would do this for money.
No.
They do it for their innocence back, I'm telling you now, not one. And if they're entitled to £1 million for a life shattered, then give them £1 million. You know, they deserve it. And more, you know. So, on top of people come forward and they were trying to suppress it unsuccessfully with that Dame Janet Smith's sort of nonsense that there was nothing to see, let's move on. That got overridden and it ended up going into the big police inquiry, which went into the government inquiry, which then led on to a lot of the grooming gang stuff coming out and everything else, social services failings. It was unstoppable.
Yeah.
Right? They had to do something, so they set up the National Inquiry. And I was asked to give evidence of this when I got known about. But the changing thing for me was that police officers started speaking out. They went, when I was investigating a case where kids were exactly the same as me. So a guy called Lenny Harper, he then goes on telly and said, yeah, well, I was a senior officer in Jersey and Hotel of grandkids home. Kids were murdered there, ritualistically murdered. It's the first time we heard about Satanism being used in it, murder of children, and a huge cover-up, and then a threat on him. This algorithm of what I went through, Lenny went through. Another girl from the north said the same, the copper come forward. Same thing, threats. So we all met up, and we all shared stories, and we're like, this is incredible. And of course, I've been threatened with the loss of my home job and my children. And of course, the little girls died, and there's these other officers speaking out. I'm thinking, I have to speak out.
Yeah.
I have to. These kids haven't got a voice. I have a voice. So I made this decision that I'm going to speak out. So I made allegations of corruption, malfeasance in a public office on the officers. There were 3 of them that threatened me. And it sort of didn't go down too well, but in the end, it sort of did. It was really weird because a few years ago, the BBC brought out a drama called In the Line of Duty.
I've heard of
Line
it.
of Duty, yeah. And the last series is about a paedophile ring that's covered up and officers speaking out and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you now, whoever wrote that, they've taken my case.
Yeah.
Right, I'll tell you for why. Because I needed to speak to the corruption unit, and I'd also seen how Freemasonry had influenced stuff. The Hillsborough inquiry had come out, the football thing had come out, and the inquiry was stopped and had to be re-investigated, and a new government inquiry had to be done, and they could only have officers that weren't Freemasons.
Yeah.
They had to have undertakers because it was proven, first time officially, that Freemasonry had an influence on investigations, sensitive investigations, and they couldn't allow that. So that came out. So anyone says it's conspiracy, look at the Hillsborough, the government inquiry into that. It's a stated fact that they could not use anyone connected to Freemasonry in it, right? So I said to the corruption, like, I want a senior police officer, it has to be a woman, of a rank no less than a DCI, Detective Chief Inspector. Anyway, they asked me to go for an interview to give my story to a uniform cop, and I went, oh, you can get stuff. There is no way I'm talking to a uniform cop. It ain't happening. You're not insulting me with that. You know, it has to be a detective, it has to be a woman, it has to be that rank. And I stood by it. And in the end, a woman DCI contacts me. And she said, yeah, John, come and see me. So I went up to this, again, covert sort of police building. They work out these very covert places. And she comes, she said, I'm really intrigued. Why someone of my rank, why a woman? I mean, you can't roll up your trouser leg. which is a reference to you can't be a Freemason because you're a woman.
Oh, okay. So, yeah.
Right, now, in the line of duty, that exact line is used. Exact line in the almost identical case of what I was speaking out against.
Really?
Yeah. Years later, she just couldn't stop laughing. She went, I'm with you. So they interviewed me over a period of days, give a story, got protected status, police can't touch me, right? Brilliant. But what happens then is the Met Police get hold of the crime, give it straight away over to the National Inquiry, to the National Crime Agency, and they cover it up. Shut it down, cover it up. Operation Winter Key, shut it down. Goes nowhere. So then that means I'm no longer a witness. Protected status, gone. So then they come and arrest me. I get arrested over the next period of time. I get arrested 9 times for rubbish, for allegations of theft. Theft being theft of a sheet of A4 paper. Yeah, I get on suspension. I get allegations of Class A drug supply. I get even more ludicrous, that one. And they reckon I'm going to go away for 15 years for that when they've got all the evidence in. It was just absolutely nonsense what that was about. Total nonsense. I went through 15 years of my emails just to find anything. Misuse of computers, information system. But see, I was working on a covert informant thing, so no one knew about it. So I had access to all sorts of data, and that was that. I said no. I had authority to look at whatever I wanted for a certain purpose and get stuff, take it as high as you want. You know, there's nothing they could do about it. And it went on and on, all of them nonsense. And then so I was going to lose my home, my job, and children. So they stopped paying me. I didn't get paid for the next 3 years.
Wow.
No income. The banks come to take my home. All right. So look at take my home and my children. So in amongst this, my mental health is decaying very rapidly. I've got no money. Right. I failed to turn up for work. I'm not coming at work. I'm mad, really. I've become a paranoid lunatic. Heavily drinking, thinking I'm going to prison, knowing I'm going to lose my job, can't pay my mortgage, won't get my pension, nothing. So they've taken away isolating me, no one's allowed to talk to me. A politician, a minister, a cabinet minister, so we got to look politically. So I started taking an interest in politics. When I started getting suspects that were politics, I started learning about politics and what it meant and what positions were and the regulations behind politicians, because that's how I worked.
Yeah.
If you've got a motorbike and it don't work, strip the thing down and rebuild it. You'll know how it works, and you'll understand things you never understood before.
Exactly.
You'll have a healthy respect for its engineering, those that built it, and your treatment of it. And that's what I did. For me, one of the biggest off-putting things is ignorance. Can't tolerate ignorance. If I can say anything to anyone, don't be ignorant. Learn, educate yourself. Whatever's going on, global politics. If a country is mentioned on the telly, last week, 40 Christians had their heads cut off in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Go and Google the history behind the Congo. King Leopold of Belgium and the whole colonialism around there and what them people have endured and suffered, and go and watch it. The tribal aspect to it, the Tutsis, the Hutsis, and all that. Fascinating. And that's what I would do.
Yeah.
I'd know what language do they speak. There are 400 languages spoken in that country, and people go, "Where's the Congo?" And I can't tolerate it. I can't be doing with it. I just, one of the biggest off-putting things for me is ignorance. But no, know about, and also when you're an interviewer, when you're dealing with people, know a bit about their culture.
Yeah.
Know how to say hello in their culture. Know what they eat, what they drink. Are they Muslim? Are they Christian? If they're Christian, were they persecuted? One of the biggest persecutions of any race were the Armenian Catholics. The Germans massacred 6 million of them. Never hear about it.
I found out quite recently. I went to the gunpowder thing in London to do with Guy Fawkes.
Yeah.
I didn't realise all that was all over the Catholics as well.
Yeah, of course it was, yeah.
Tortured and killed.
Everything, yeah.
I just thought they just didn't like what they're called, the government. Well,
Yeah.
that's what it was all over, but no, it's over because they were killing all the Catholics.
Yeah, that's right.
Because then they had to go into secret hidings
And because of the Reformation, Protestantism came in, and they said it was all to do with Henry VIII. It wasn't. Most of Europe was Catholic, and it became anti-Semitic. It didn't want the Jews in there because they were saying they were controlling the banking system. So it was the Orange Order which allowed Jews back in to have government roles.
Yeah.
And that came in through the Reformation. And William of Orange brought that in, because Holland was the only country that would allow.
Oh, okay.
And that's why it became the centre of the diamond and the gold trading and things like that. So it's a whole history of these things. And what we're seeing now is it's gone on. There's nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun.
Do you think it could ever be fixed? Or will ever be fixed? With corruption, with the fact it's been going on for so many years, it's always going to carry on, isn't it?
But what you've got to do in order to take control, you've got to attack the family. So this is why child abuse is the only topic when criminality is involved. When people go, oh, my father wasn't equipped, I'll become equipped. Well, you become equipped because you was probably abused, my friend, and that's why that happened, and that's why you got angry with society, So you've got to break the family as an attack on the family.
Yeah.
Remove the father through whatever way, through attitudes from colonialism or just dysfunctionality or alcoholism or whatever it is. Remove that away, and then you will slowly start to break it, and have ignorance, stupidity and ignorance, and it soon comes about, and give people what they want and not what they should have, and so they become lazy, they become fat, they become on antidepressants, which makes them even more heavier, makes them even more depressed. So, and stop them understanding what they really could be.
Yeah.
And they've done it, and they've broken our society. It's totally shattered, and take out a belief system. These people become atheistic. It's all about self-belief. So they don't believe that there's a bigger power out there, which is where I'll come to.